Now, Israel has admitted that there is a high possibility that Israeli soldiers could have accidentally killed journalist Shireen Abu Akleh on the 11th of May. Israel, however, would not be launching a criminal investigation into the findings. This acknowledgement comes after Israel insisted for months that it was impossible to determine the source of the deadly shot that killed Akleh. At the time, they had also said that she could have been killed by terrorist gunfire. In the latest report, the army said there is a higher possibility that Akleh was hit by a stray shot of a soldier who did not identify her as a journalist. But they also said that it was still not possible to determine the source of the shot with certainty. It's important to remember Abu Akleh was wearing a bulletproof vest marked Press when she was killed. Akleh's family said that Israel had refused to take responsibility for her murder. They expressed disappointment and called for a credible U.S. investigation. Palestinian authorities have also accused Israel of intentionally killing the reporter in the Jenin refugee camp. However, Israel insisted that even if their soldier had fired the fatal shot, it was not deliberate. The senior army officer also expressed deep regret over the incident. Meanwhile, Al Jazeera slammed Israel for lack of accountability.
واضح بأنهم من ناحية يحاولون أن يبقوا الباب مفتوحا على عملية الغموض والتضليل، ومن ناحية أخرى تبرئة ساحتهم بالقول بأنه كان هناك تبادل لإطلاق النار، وهذا كله ثابت كذبه وعدم دقته، لأن كافة التحقيقات وشهادات شهود العيان وكل ما جرى في المنطقة والفيديوهات المسجلة تؤكد عكس ادعائهم بالكامل.
The United Nations had conducted an investigation on her death. They concluded in June that there was no evidence of activity by armed Palestinians close by when Abu Akleh was shot. The United States on the 4th of July had said that she was likely shot by Israeli fire. However, they said that there was no evidence that her killing was intentional. They had also said that the bullet was too damaged for a conclusive finding. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by our correspondent, Jodie Cohen. Hello to you, Jodie. Could you tell us more about these findings and also what happens next?
Hi, Alison. Absolutely. So Israel says it's completed several internal probes and has now released its final report, saying that while it's not possible, quote, to unequivocally determine the source of the gunfire, there's a high probability an Israeli soldier accidentally shot veteran Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh while she was covering a raid in Jenin in May. Now, Israel says that gun battles were going on at the time between soldiers and Palestinian Islamic Jihad there, and that soldiers were coming under fire from every direction and didn't have clear visibility. Now, there won't be a criminal investigation as the military advocate general found no suspicion of criminal intent. The IDF say they were in Jenin to search and arrest those involved in a terror wave in Israel in May that killed 18 people, and say that a disproportionate number of the perpetrators of those attacks came from Jenin, which is seen as a hotbed not only for Palestinian Islamic Jihad, but also for Hamas, which the Palestinian Authority reportedly are struggling to control, with the IDF chief Aviv Kohathi saying today that the PA's helplessness in the West Bank is compelling the IDF to step up its raids there.
Right. And Jodie, now this case, of course, has received much attention, both among the Palestinian authorities and in Israel, as well as globally. What have we seen as the response to these findings that have been released now?
You're absolutely right. There's been a lot of global attention on this case, and that's really because Shireen Abu Akleh was a veteran journalist of 3 decades, much respected and admired across the world. She's really also become a symbol of some of the victims of this conflict. Now, the Palestinians and Abu Akleh's family have rejected Israel's findings. They accuse Israel of intentionally killing her, and they want to see a criminal investigation take place. And really, this whole process of investigation has underlined the distrust between the Palestinians and Israel. And for example, immediately after the killing, Israel was accused of intentional murder prior to any investigation. And Israel, in turn, accused the Palestinian Authority of obstructing the investigation by not handing over the bullet. Now, the US has welcomed the release of the findings and said that there's no reason to believe that the shooting was intentional. The US has saying that this case is highlighting the importance of accountability and policies and procedures to prevent similar events like this taking place in the future. And they've said that they will share best practices with military partners and allies around the world to try and prevent this sort of thing from happening again, which they have called tragic.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jodie, for bringing us all the latest.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.